I get nowhere unless the team wins.
This is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, okay.
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView, the November 12th, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Benched, the app. Never take a zero, never get a goose egg because you left a non-starting player in your fantasy lineup. Download Bench the app today, dominate your fantasy season, and make losing a thing of the past. All right, it is Tuesday. I'm not usually here on Tuesday, and I thought I was going to do a whole full show. I think what I'm just going to do is a review and a breakdown of last night's nightmare because we're back on the air tomorrow on Wednesday. So we will be doing a regular full show where we'll talk about the passing of John Robinson. We'll talk about Thomas Brown, the former Ram assistant, being the new OC in Chicago, and Shane Waldron, former Ram assistant, getting kicked to the curb. Someone has to go to jail, Ben, someone has to lose their job. For that disaster in Chicago. But speaking of disasters, we got one in our own hand. Okay, I drank the Kool-Aid. I did, and I'll tell you in a second where I drank the Kool-Aid. I want to start off with the one thing we got right. I think in most of our scores, I think Mr. Burns had Rams 38-24. I had Rams 34-20. Dolphins scored 23 points. And as bad as the offense was, and the spots it put that defense in, I'm taking away 3 of those points and say, hey, we nailed this in terms of what the defense was going to do. You got elite receivers. It's an NFL offense. These NFL teams now, the days of the steel curtain, that Baltimore defense in the 2000s, and then the Rams' great defenses of the past. Those days are gone because everything favors the offense. And again, what did the Rams do? They held the Dolphins to 23 points, right? The final was 23-15. It turned into a one-possession game. We said it a few weeks ago. Chris Shula's not the problem here. Chris Shula's not the problem. The defense is not the problem. And I know people are going there. The secondary is not the problem. They held an offense with Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, and Tyreek Hill. They held that offense to 20 points, roughly, right? They got scorched on the first series. But if you know football, the beautiful thing to see in football are adjustments. And they didn't get scorched that way again. And they were constantly being let down by the offense. Okay, so let's just make sure that we keep that perspective there. Jared Verse would probably be a top 3 pick now, right? Jared Verse is amazing. Byron Young played good. Don't look at the PFF scores. The PFF scores are ridiculous. Braden Fisk played well. Bobby Brown probably played one of his better games. And I'll even go this far for Bobby Brown. He shouldn't have put his helmet into that offensive lineman's face, but that is as much fire as I've seen out of Bobby Brown in his 4 years with the Rams. When he did that and the way he was playing last night, that made me say, man, I really hope the Rams re-sign him. He's the toilet clogger we might need, and I'd hate to see him prosper someplace else. No, they played well. They played well on defense. Everything on the defensive side of the ball was okay. Was it perfect? No. But again, the fearsome foursome, the steel curtain, those days are over, right? And we appreciate what we have. Here's the other part. I did drink the Kool-Aid on this. For the last 3 weeks, all I preached about was continuity on the offensive line. I felt like going back and picking out the episodes, but it's every episode. Every stinking episode I did, I said, oh, this is cool. 3rd straight week. Limmer, Dietich, Alaric Jackson, Dotson, and Havenstein. And that's great. 3 weeks, continuity, getting familiar. But here's the thing. I got all starry-eyed. I did. I'm guilty of it, and it makes me sick. I think that's what I was maddest about yesterday, is that I was happily going, yeah, start Avila, start Jonah Jackson, and let's pound these suckers, right? Let's get the blood tonight. I was so jazzed, and I broke the cardinal rule. Continuity along the offensive line. Not only was Avila back, Jonah Jackson was back, but we forgot that Rob Havenstein was out. So the Rams were going to that Dolphin game after 3 weeks, giving up 1 sack in 3 weeks, not a sack in 2 weeks. The Rams went into the game against an inferior team that has a good player in Calais Campbell. Seiler's okay. We know Jalen Ramsey, and they made that defense look great. They couldn't get a push. They couldn't protect their quarterback. And I'm suspect on those grades they gave Avila and Alaric Jackson. But here's the deal. They went out there with 3 new guys in that offensive line. There's no continuity there. And Stafford paid the price. Stafford paid the price. The Rams paid the price. It was bad. It was bad all the way across the line. We're going to break down Jonah Jackson's contract tomorrow, but the Rams are giving him millions. Kamala gave millions, it appears, to all these performers at her events. At least Kamala got some great performances out of her people. The Rams can't get a single performance out of Jonah Jackson. And I know we want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here, but let's remember he missed time in August. He missed time when he came back. They've got to let him start again. I know everyone's screaming for Limmer. It's like Limmer has replaced Creed Humphrey, and I totally get it. But and we still got that love affair with Avila. And people are going to be deluded and say, oh, wow, look at his numbers at left guard yesterday, PFF, right? So Jonah Jackson's going to take the heat here. And they're going to be screaming for Limmer, but they're not going to do it. Not unless there's something injury or something, or McVay is finally, ticked off to the core, which he didn't look too pleasant, right? And makes a big move. But you make a big move now and put Jonah Jackson on the bench, you better think of some excuse to say, oh, yeah, he just wasn't ready to come back, because you're giving him millions. You signed him to a big contract, and I was down with it. And so they got a problem there. And then the other problem, and I'm going to take some credit for this, I was screaming for McClendon over Noteboom. And then in the middle of the game, I probably would have benched Noteboom and brought in McClendon. I'm not saying McClendon is that much better than Noteboom, but what we used to get out of Noteboom back in 2021 and briefly in 2020, that day is done, right? That day is done. So Warren McClendon should have been out there. And you don't have the games right now to play with. As sick as it makes me to say it, the Cardinals are streaking. They're 6-4. The Rams are 4-5 with a loss to the Cardinals. So we're 2 games back of the Cardinals. We're a game back now of the 49ers, right? And so this playoff picture took a huge hit last night. So not only do the Rams need to probably win 6 out of their next 8, and even if they win 6 out of their next 8, they got to hope the Cardinals crash and burn like the Cardinals usually do, but it's no longer left in the Rams' hands. And my feeling right now, if you're putting it to me, that, with the Cardinals winning, if the Cardinals had lost on Sunday and the 49ers were this close to losing, then you know what? It's a push, and we'll get back to the business this next week. But they didn't. Both those teams won. And not good. Not good. Rams are in a bad spot. Rams are in a really bad spot right now. And does that mean Havenstein's back next week? We don't know. But I got to tell you, I know you got more money left right now, probably in Jackson. I'll have to check the contract than Noteboom. But Warren McClendon would be my right tackle going into next week. That was a disaster. That was an absolute disaster last night. Disaster. Did I say it again? Disaster. Stafford is fine. I don't want to hear, we need a more mobile quarterback. No, Stafford is fine. The receivers are fine. Kyron Williams had a fumble. That happens, right? But the offensive line was the key to this game, and they were terrible. And I have to say this, I'm getting sick of it. I asked this, one of our new friends here online is Payo Time, and Payo is up in Canada, and I did ask him to, is there any metric that measures when the Rams get to an opponent's 10 or 9, when it's goal to goal from the 10 or the 9, because it seems like it's to me is that every time the Rams are at the opponent's 10 or 9 on a goal to go, they never score a touchdown, right? They never score a touchdown. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think this is on McVay. They are terrible, terrible in the red zone. They are terrible, just absolutely awful. Now, I know Stafford missed the throw to Kyron Williams, but you know what? When you're getting wrapped upside the head every other play, you're going to be in a hurry. You're going to look and you're going to make hurried things. He did miss the throw to Kyron Williams, but please, right? There's nothing more disappointing to me than when I see the Rams. When Kupp caught the pass that gave us a 1st and goal toward the end of the game there, I looked at it and I go, oh, he's at the 9 or he's at the 10. We're not scoring. And sure enough, we didn't. And let's just get away from the 3rd down field goal.
That is incredibly jejune.
Not the decision to go for the field goal, the complaints about it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The Rams were already down by 2 scores. There was 39 seconds or 40 seconds left. They needed 2 scores. If they kicked the field goal, then miraculously get the onside kick. They've got 39 seconds and a timeout and an opportunity to make one last play at this game, right? Now, would you have liked the touchdown? Yeah. But you know what? You got to take what you can get. And did you really think the Rams were going to score on 3rd down? I didn't think they were going to score on down. I mean, the Dolphins defense was guarding that goal line like Patrick Waugh with the Canadians a few years ago. Well, many years ago. They couldn't do anything, and this is part of McVay's rigidness. He needs to change things up a little bit because they got us on lockdown. Everybody has us on lockdown inside that 10-yard line. So in terms of what this looks going forward, I was excited about last year because everything was gravy. They weren't supposed to be a playoff team, and a lot of guys got a lot of experience. They hit on a bunch of home runs in this year's draft. That looked really good, but this team's good enough, right? This team's good enough. This team should win the West. It's good enough to win the West. This team is good enough to compete with Detroit and let the chips fall from there. But right now they're not. And if I drank the Kool-Aid, then I'm sure McVay probably regrets drinking the Kool-Aid as well. Because, 3 starters on that offensive line, new starters on that offensive line after 3 weeks of not giving up more than 1 sack, just 1 sack over 3 weeks, over 12 quarters. That was a disaster. The defense, though, you should be excited about it. You should be really excited about the defense. And here's the funny thing, McVay's an offensive coach, but the defense is going to be pretty special. A lot of those guys are still under contract for another year. Kobe Turner, Byron Young will just be in their 3rd year next year. So the Rams likely have 2 more years with them. They got 3 more years on contract with those other guys, with Verse and Fisk. This team is developing. Christian Roseman did a really good job last night, right? Christian Roseman looked pretty good. The defense was not the problem, guys. The defense was not the problem. They only gave up 20 points. What was that they gave up? 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals to an NFL offense with Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, and Tua Tagovailoa, right? And right, they did what they needed to do, and the offense let them down. And now they're in serious trouble looking at the postseason. So, we do have some questions here. Tim Burns, hey, Joe T, moment of silence for Coach John Robinson. I like John Robinson. He's the guy. To me, yes, he was the Rams coach. I was really happy when the Rams got him. He brought some sanity back after the end of the Malavasi era in 1983. But what I'll always remember about John Robinson, he got USC back to the Rose Bowl in '76 with Vince Evans. The 1975 year, after Pat Hayden, J. McKay, and all those guys graduated, that was the Ricky Bell. Give it to Ricky Bell. And Vince Evans was the quarterback. And Vince Evans did not have a good junior year. It was not good at all. And so what I remembered was, McKay went to the Buccaneers and John Robinson became the head coach. And then everybody freaked out in his first USC game. USC lost to Missouri in the opener that year in the Coliseum. Yeah, I think Pizarkowicz was actually playing quarterback for the Tigers that day or that night. And everyone was up in arms. And then he ran the table the rest of the way, and they won the Rose Bowl. I think Charles White had a up and over, and they won 14-7, I think it was. And Vince Evans had a bootleg keeper for a touchdown. I became a big Vince Evans fan that season. And then, of course, a John Robinson fan. He got jobbed out of a title, had to share a title with Alabama in 78, which was preposterous. Yeah, he had a really great run. Second run, not so great. But yeah, he maintained that whole mystique even after John McKay left. You had Ricky Bell, great tailback, Charles White, Heisman winner, Marcus Allen, and then I just remember his last game against UCLA, called win-win for the fat guy. And SC was going on probation. They weren't going to a bowl game that year, and that was the Carl Morgan game. I mean, this guy got clicks out of Scott Tinsley. So, yeah, I was a John Robinson fan, and I guess we could talk more about him tomorrow. But, yeah, there we go. Tim Burns. So, Spates is inside linebacker and starter, and Roseboom gets the INT. Hey, Roseboom played the game of his life last night, right? Played the game of his life. Michael Negretti. The offense is the problem with McVay. Preach. Yep, absolutely. And yes, the Rams did stink, Mr. Negretti. ESG. Chris Shula has his boys ready. I can't say the same for McVay. Hey, remember what everyone was talking about Chris Shula earlier this year? Everyone was talking about him. Young team, young defenders. They're gonna slow down. I think take a breath, as Mr. Burns said. They did that, and they've been lights out. Giving up 20 points, just 2 touchdowns in this league. That means your team's giving you a chance to win, and they're making plays. They're absolutely making plays. Tim Burns. My take on RD is we are getting amazing work from first and second year players. That said, third and long is killing us game after game. It did a couple times. But you know what? They tightened up. It's not a disaster. Again, we all want the Legion of Boom. We all want those great defenses most of us grew up watching, but I just don't think you can see those in the NFL anymore. You just can't. Yeah, Steve Ramirez, 23 points in today's NFL should be enough. And again, being conservative, I put 3 of those points on the offense for the position the offense kept putting the defense in. Let's see. Tim Burns, Raiders talk is trying to get Bobby Brown in free agency, which I think is next year. Yeah, Bobby Brown becomes a free agent next year. And he's playing his way into a contract, right? Love watching him go on this run. Again, yeah, he shouldn't have got the penalty. That was pretty stupid in one sense. But what you want to see from a big dude like that, sometimes those guys just grow into a scholarship or they grow into a game and they don't have passion for it. Covering high school football, Steve Ramirez probably confirmed this. He's probably seen it before. You see the biggest guys that are on the offensive line or defensive line, and they end up being the most passive. They got the softest hearts, right? They don't have that tenacity. They're put out there because they're just big dudes, but they're not killers. And if they were killers, they'd probably get a pretty good chunk of education paid for at the college level, but they're not. And you just never knew about Bobby Brown. But whatever it is, the fire's been lit under his butt. He knows it's a contract year. Someone's going to give him a contract. He's going to get a contract unless he just tanks over the next 9 games. It's just a shame. It's just a shame that we won't be able to utilize him if we don't, if Sean McVay doesn't get his offense together, right? They just don't get their offense together. Limmer should be the starting center, Michael Negretti. Yeah. Dollars in finance right now, Chief. Dollars in finance right now. I do think there's an avenue to get out from Jonah Jackson, but we still got to find out. And now we're got to go to New England, I think, next week. And they got a chance to put it together there. But, New England does play defense. So we're going to see. Let's see. Jackson and Noteboom had bad games, and Alaric Jackson had a bad couple plays. Yeah, I'm not saying that Alaric was as bad as Noteboom or Jonah Jackson, But Alaric Jackson, I don't think he was as great as PFF scores indicate. Neither was Avila. I just think across the board they were bad. And I don't think Kevin Dotson was very good either. But yeah, Noteboom and Jonah Jackson were brutal. Tim Burns, Davis Allen. Yeah, in fact, I made it in my notes last night. It looks like Davis Allen has definitely ascended to number one tight end. That means he's getting his blocking in, right? Well, that's cool. Davis Allen was what, a 5th round pick out of Clemson? That's another score. Let's see, ESG. I hate to say it, but having Jackson and Avila back ruined the chemistry of that O-line. Absolutely. Continuity. That's continuity. Bingo. Tim Burns, my kicker was 5 for 6, and on the last 6 drives, that says we got the right kicker, and our offense was toast yesterday. Yeah, and he got jobbed because it was Limmer that moved, that made the 52-yarder null and void, and then he pushed the 57-yarder. That was it. Let's see. ESG, McVay's running schemes are too simple and too predictable. I heard someone arguing that we're not spending enough time under center, and it's too predictable with the sets, and teams are able to figure it out. I actually heard people complaining about on some of the 49er talk. They're talking about the same thing with Kyle Shanahan. And then there was somebody else that brought it up. Was it Nick Wright? I don't know. I didn't see anything today because I was avoiding the news like the plague. But someone else brought up that so much of the league, was it Mike McDaniel that said that? Someone brought up that so much of the league is running that Shanahan offense from back in the day that it's not a mystery anymore to these defenses. So there is a predictability there to the McVay's run offense. Tim Burns, Stafford had a poor game, 1 interception, but fumbled twice. The whole team had timing issue. I refuse, Mr. Burns, to lay any of this on Stafford. He should have better in front of him. My goodness, right? This is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what goes on in the locker room, but somebody should have pulled all those offensive linemen and just screamed their lungs out at him. Just screamed their lungs out. Threaten anything, Say, we're going to bring Aaron Donald here just to kick somebody's butt because at a certain point, right? This is the thing you love about football. And you could appreciate this about the Dolphins. Undermanned, under-talented, and they kick the Rams' butt. You used to see the schools that come out for 7-on-7 drills and stuff in the spring, and they're all wearing T-shirts and stuff, all different kind of sayings, hard work beats talent. And it's true in football. That's what makes football beautiful. And at some point, Jonah Jackson, Steve Avila, Joe Noteboom, you just got to get angry, right? You just got to get angry. I can remember playing basketball. At some point, you just got to knock somebody down. You just have to do this. You can't continue to just be abused like that. And they took it. And that was the part that at least Bobby Brown knocked somebody in the head, right? At some point, aren't you so disgusted with yourself, Jonah Jackson, Joe Noteboom, that you're just going to just take a cheap shot? You're going to shove somebody. You're going to scream. You're going to do something. But they just looked so passive last night. They just took it. And, it was gross. It was hard to watch. Very hard to watch. Tim Burns, I think Sean had his first really weird play calling game. It never made sense, and I think it obstructed everyone's timing. Not the end of the world, but it's on him. You know what I didn't like? I didn't like the screen pass on the first play. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. If I'm going to do something, I'm not going to be cute. I'm going to make that defensive front stop me. If I've got Avila and Jackson back, you know what? I'm not going to ask them to dance out on a screen pass. I'm going to say, you know what? First series, you guys are going to plow the road. I want you to hit, and I want you to hurt whatever's in front of you. And instead, McVay got too cute, right? He just got too cute, and it cost the Rams. Let's see. Steve Ramirez, Carl Morgan. Yes, Carl Morgan. You remember the call, Steve? Al Michaels and Frank Broyles were on the call, and it's 4th down, and Tinsley got the ball to Mark Boyer, and last play of his career as a USC head coach, at least at that point, it's 20-19, and they decide to go for 2, and he goes out, Simmons goes in motion, and then he goes back the other way, and you hear Michaels calling it. The play is going to go in that direction in all likelihood. And sure enough, as Tinsley is looking, he's got time, And then Morgan comes in, and Frank Broyles had a great call when he broke it down. He says, look, he's got time. He's got time. And here comes Carl Morgan. Yeah, that was a big win for UCLA. Tim, I think that was that Terry Donahue's, third win? Second win over USC? I think it was his third. Let's see. Chemistry may have toasted a bit. Yeah, I agree about chemistry, Mr. Burns. ESG, it wasn't just the Rams offense last night. The whole past weekend of NFL action was a lot of low-scoring offenses. Okay. Tom Sereni, talk about offensive line continuity and then break up the offensive line. Tom Sereni, I'm glad you're with us. I hope you can subscribe. And yeah, I'm taking the hit on that one because I've been preaching that for 3 weeks. And then when I was on the air yesterday, I was so jazzed about having Avila and Jonah Jackson back that I blew the whole continuity argument out the water. 3 guys on the offensive line, because Noteboom was there too, that hadn't been there previous weeks, and I got all starry-eyed. I did. I'm ashamed of myself for it. Absolutely. Steve Ramirez, football is about execution. Doesn't really matter if the defense knows what you run. If you execute, you will have success. No execution last night. I think even Wooden said that, right? Didn't Wooden say that about his basketball team? Sam Ansley. Giving up big third down plays again. Who's to blame? Shula, Lake, Witherspoon, Curl. Again, those things I think are going to happen, Sam. I think they're going to happen. But again, look at the end product, right? Again, look at, again, I'm going to take one of those field goals and put them on the offense for the position that put the defense in. The Rams held an NFL offense to 20 points, only 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. These weren't the killers of this game. Could it be better? Oh, absolutely. But we're just not going to see better, I don't think, as long as everything tilts and skews towards the offense in the NFL. Steve Ramirez, 3rd win for Donahue. UCLA went on to beat to the Rose Bowl and beat Michigan. Yeah, Tom Ramsey. Yeah, I remember that one. Who was the guy that got the pick? It wasn't Carl Morgan. Guy ended up playing for the 49ers. There was a linebacker. He got a pick 6 in that game. Tim Burns, at least it wasn't a division loss, so we kind of knew a division title was our only route to the playoffs anyway. Yeah, it's only a division loss, but what really upsets me now is now we got to help the Cardinals lose somewhere along the way before we play them, the royal we. And so that's frustrating because now you're dependent on someone else. Again, could the Rams reel off 6 out of 8? They won 7 out of 8 last year. Could they reel off 6 out of 8? Of course they can. Could one of these teams like Minnesota only scored 12 points? Good call there. Who was the one that brought that up? ESG. There's a lot of scoring problems this week. Sam Darnold. The Vikings only managed 12 points. If the Vikings fall, maybe the Rams can climb up. It's just they're going to have to win 6 out of their last 8 just to get 10 wins. And I don't know if a wild card spot's going to be there for them. There's going to have to be some major collapses around the NFC. And that's going to be a bummer, right? Because I like Stafford. And if he stays healthy, I want him back. But it's just another moment, your window, right? I believe there's a 3-year window there for the Rams. And you blow it in 2024, then it's a 2-year window. And so I just hate to see it end like this because I think it's a better team and it's very frustrating. So there we go. All right. Again, I don't want to go into too much stuff here. On everything, I'm going to break it down tomorrow. We've gone close to 30 minutes. So I'm going to hang out here for another couple minutes and then we'll wrap it up. But guys, thank you for coming and clicking on. It was interesting. Kobe Durant early on missed a tackle, and they got a first down the very next play. I think what was the total for tackles for losses? I thought I heard, because I avoided a lot of stuff today because I didn't want to get mad any madder than I was. But the Rams had a lot of tackles for losses, right? They had a lot of them, And again, could they tighten things up on 3rd down? Absolutely. But you can see the improvement in this defense over and over. They got to Tua. And if the offense had done their part, there would have been a little more urgency on some of the Dolphin play calling, and they had no pressure on them at all, right? They're up 10-0. They're up 10-6. They're up 10-17-6. 17-9? What was that 20-9, 20-12? I mean, they just had no urgency. They had nothing putting them on. And here's the ironic thing. After all of that, here's the funny thing too. And we'll wrap this up here now. Here's the funny thing. It was a one possession loss. One possession loss against Detroit, right? One possession loss against the Packers. One possession loss against the Bears, right? One possession loss to the Dolphins. One possession losses, and that blowout that I don't think will be repeated in Arizona. So 5 losses, 4 of them by one possession. Sometimes you just wish they'd get blown out so you wouldn't get so angry, right? There we go. All right, let's see here. ESG, will the Rams outfield goal kick the Patriots to win? Patriots were also kicking field goals, except they won this past weekend. Yeah, and I could say, yeah, they had the advantage of playing the Bears, but the Rams lost to the Bears too. That was another game. The Rams, again, if you had banked that win against the Bears, if you'd put that one in the bank, you'd be okay right now because you'd be 5-4, right? If you put that one in the bank, but instead you lost it. That was a game that was winnable. I'll go back into they should have won the Packer game, right? They should have won that game. And again, one possession losses are brutal, right? So anyway, there we go. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for hanging out. How many times did you almost swear last night, Mr. Burns? Let me see here on my phone. Let me add it up. Carry the 5, carry the 10. Nasty call to friend to Stan Kroenke. I honestly believed up until they got the field goal that made it 23-15 or 23-12. I honestly thought when it was 20-12, I honestly thought the Rams were going to win that game. I thought at some point the defense is going to make another play. There's going to be another moment. They're going to have another opportunity. And I really, until they went ahead 23-12 with under 5 minutes, that's when that's when I went to the Meredith song. But I don't know if I lost it as much as I was I think I started off disgusted. I hated the screen pass to start the game. And then as it just kept going along, it's like, this is ridiculous. And again, what you want to see, you don't want a Deebo Samuel moment on your sideline, right? You don't want that. You don't want anything stupid like the Seahawks had a couple weeks ago between who was that? Was that Jaron Reed and one of their other players? You don't want one of those moments, but in the locker room, is there anybody in there? I'm hoping it's going to be Jared Verse, right? He's already taken some leadership, I've heard. I'm hoping someone is going to put the fear of God and say, I'd rather, get into a fight with the other team's defense than get into a fight with my defense, right? And it was very frustrating. All right, Bill, good to have you, Bill. Is it me or is Puka the shell of the player he was last year? You know what? I don't think I didn't notice it yet. I think again, being out for a while, he's getting his groove back. But they never got these receivers the ball in any real place where they can do anything with it, and so it was frustrating to see. What round would you take a good pass catching tight end? I want to see how Davis Allen finishes the year. My feeling is it depends on what they lose. If they're going to lose Bobby Brown in free agency. First 100 they have 3 picks in the first 100, 2 threes and a number 1. And so if you're desperate for a tight end, but they signed Parkinson, Higbee's still under contract. I don't know if they're going to invest any capital in that tight end position. But Steve Ramirez, I want Tyler Warren. Okay. All right. Right now, right now, I just want somebody that's angry. That's what I want. I just want somebody in the room other than Sean McVay that's angry, right? Tim Burns, Jones gone at the last second was a season moment that hurt us from a player and leadership standpoint. If Ernest Jones was as good as we remember him, and he was good for us, I'm surprised Tennessee gave up on him so quick? I mean, they got a 5th for him, right? Well, why did they give up on him so quick, right? And I think he's good, but I think he's a guy. And yeah, could he have been spiritual leader? Maybe. Yeah, I think so. But I think, would he be better than what we have right now? Yes, but I was surprised Tennessee gave up on him real quick, because he'd be kind of guy that, if he is the guy that we think he is, Tennessee would want to hang around and build around going forward with that bad team they have. Let's see here. Bill, off-season plan, offense. Yeah, because the last 2 years has been defense. And yeah, I agree. ESG, I think Stafford should be the angriest. He's the one who was getting tossed around last night. Absolutely. Great call there, ESG, right? Great call. Absolutely. And he should be yelling at McVay. He should say, what's the stuff you're sending in? So we'll see. All right, guys. I hate to leave because we got an audience here and you guys are yakking it up pretty good. I love talking with you guys, but we're going to be back on tomorrow. Be sure, if you can, check us out on Spotify from the RamCave. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe here. And we're going to see you tomorrow. 3 straight days of RamView. God bless. Steve, Tim, Tom, Sam, Bill, ESG. Guys, thanks for hanging out. I do appreciate it. Mr. McGrady as well.